Hi everybody, today we are in the heart of Leamington Spa. We will be looking at the town's historical miraculous healing waters, as well as providing clear, undeniable evidence how the controllers have purposefully suppressed these healing waters from the benefit of humanity so that the controllers could gain overall control over the water, air, land and humanity. So I'm sure you'll find this video very interesting with the evidence I am about to present. We are walking through Jeffson's Garden, which happens to be named after Leamington's most famous and popular physicians, a Dr. Henry Jeffson, who started practicing as a doctor at the Royal Pump Room and Baths in 1823. We shall be looking at the Royal Pump Rooms and Baths shortly in this video. Dr. Jeffson had a holistic approach in his way of working, where he prescribed natural, holistic ways to drink and bathe in the town's healing and medicinal waters, as well as a strict, healthy diet and regular walks in nature, including walking through these very gardens where we are now. His treatments soon became very popular and attracted many wealthy and famous people from all over the UK as well as Europe. The healing rich saline waters of Leamington were believed to have first been known during the Roman time and subsequently rediscovered during the 1400s and later in the Victorian era of the 1800s. Sounds to me like it's another repeating pattern of the controller's narrative, as you'll be able to clearly see in the evidence in this video, with the continued rediscovery of these healing waters followed by a period of suppression where these healing waters are no longer available to the people. It all seems to fall in line with the controllers' reset agendas. Oh, and are we not going through another major global reset right now? So there's no surprise then that these natural beneficial healing waters have again purposefully suppressed as they are no longer available to the benefit of the people. Let's now take a look at the reasons why Leamington Spa had these miraculous healing waters. According to the narrative, the reasons we are told is that this particular area where we are, where Leamington Spa is located, during the prehistoric times was a large inland sea during the prehistoric times, giving it the waters a high saline, sodium and mineral content, giving it its healing quantities. However, in my opinion, this is nothing more than just hearsay, as there is no valid evidence to back this up, and also taking into consideration that Leamington Spa is the most central located towns in the country, making it the furthest town from any coastline. I personally believe that these healing waters were a primary source of what is called primary water, which is the deep, pure, undisturbed, clean, original waters of the earth with their natural healing properties, as well as the rich mineral content of the subterranean water providing those healing properties, as well as being positioned on a specific node on the earth grid known for its beneficial telluric energies. Let's now take a look into the origins of the town's name. According to a listing in the Domesday Book of 1086, the original name for Leamington was Lamminto. Let's break this word down to see what this actually means. As you can see, the word lamin indicates fibrous protein that provides structure and relegate transcription in the cell nucleus. So, looking at the third definition, that would also apply to regulating the health and healing of cells and human DNA. Now, let's look at the second part of the word. Tone is reference to energy and frequency. It has also been proven by numerous scientists and geobiologists, such as Rory Duff, that lays and give off a sound frequency which is beyond our scope. If we put these two words together, it would refer to either a town or a settlement which is located on the Earth grid, on beneficial telluric energies of the Earth grid. So this is a far more probable explanation to why the healing waters originated to Leamington Spa. Leamington Spa was made famous by its miraculous healing waters, by the discovery of 6 healing springs, 5 by the healing springs, and the creation of bathhouses. There were a total of 6 bathhouses situated around the town of Leamington Spa. There were 5 springs which were all found to the south of the river. However, there was a 6th spring that was discovered in the year 1810 at the north side of the river. And then 3 years later, after the discovery of the 6th spring, there was a new pump room and baths which opened in the year 1814, which, most surprisingly, put all the other 5 bathhouses out of business. However, the popularity of the baths was so great that it had to be extended, and the building was finally completed 2 years later in the year 1816. The initial cost in 1840 was £30,000. In today's money, that would be worth just over £3 million. With the extension of the building in 1816, that cost a further £18,000, which in today's money is equivalent to just under £2.25 million. So the total development of the pump room and baths was £5.25 million, or $6.7 million. We are standing to the north of the river. Could this be that 6th spring where we're looking at now? Or could this be a well that they don't want you to access? Look at that bolt over the drain cover, the inspection hole. It is quite clear to see they do not want anybody to access this point. So could this be that 6th spring? Let's just focus on how the building has changed since its initial construction in 1814. Here, in 1862, a newly formed company took over the running of the building, and this company carried out extensive reconstruction work. It is said that during these refurbishments, pediment and a tower were added to the front of the building, as we can see in this image. If we compare these two images and see the changes that have been made, if we look at this image taken from 1920, we can clearly see the pediment above the central point of the building, as well as the tower in the right hand corner. Just take a look at that pole of the tower. Could that have served as an antenna together with the geometric shapes of the pediment and the tower? Could they have been harnessing and combining the beneficial etheric energies from the air, as well as the telluric earth energies from the ground, in amplifying and boosting the healing effects of these waters? Let's take a look at some other changes. We can see that the chimney on the left hand side has also been removed. Let's take a look at the top floor. We can see that the original building had arched windows. These arched windows were a common feature in Moorish architecture. What we can see are dull and less characterful square windows. The reason we are told these original features were removed was due to them not being safe. The pediment and a tower were removed in what we are told was in 1950, which happened to be just 2 years after the government took control over the whole building in the year 1948, with the NHS taking over physiotherapy and hydrotherapies, whilst the local government taking control over the Turkish and all other baths, including the gentlemen's and ladies' pools. So, does that mean these arched windows were also unsafe, or could we decode not safe as being a threat to the narrative we can see all over the world, especially in the UK and the US, where historical buildings such as churches and other such buildings having the focal architectural masterpieces removed? Are all these ones that have ever been removed from these historical buildings also unsafe? In my opinion, the reason for the cover-up of the old world architecture is to hide the truth of the functions of these architectural features. Just to the left of the pump rooms, in the year 2000, there was a drinking fountain erected, as we can see here. The drinking fountain is within a standing limestone rock. Intended purpose was so people could sample the waters of the spa. This fountain happens to be directly on the opposite side of the road where we saw that bolted inspection cover. Let's take a look to see if we can get any water. Well, there's a surprise. Not a single drop of water from the faucet. Looks like it's been capped. I wonder what the reason for this is. Could it be that the water still has its healing properties? They don't want people to access the benefits and healing properties of this water. We shall see further evidence to back this up when we look at the old well house and the Old Arboretum. The pump room and baths were finally closed for good as a bathhouse and spa in the 1990s. It is now home to a museum, art gallery and town library. All that remains of the original construction of the building are sandstone Tuscan column we can see at the front of the building. The rest of the construction of the building we see today is mostly from the renovation works carried out in the year 1926. As the healing waters were first discovered during the Roman times, it is very likely would have had their own baths, which would have been located at this exact locations of the source of the spring where this building is today. My question is, could the columns at the front of this building, could they have been original columns from the original Roman baths? And could the pump rooms and baths, which was built in 1814, could this existing building that we see today, could it have been built on top of the original infrastructure of the Roman bath? You may be wondering from the word pump, what was pumped into the building? The pump rooms was home to the world's first gravity-fed piped hot water system, which pumped in the abundance of the healing waters that was required to keep pump rooms and baths running. This gravity-fed pump was designed and installed in 1815, which was designed by engineer William Murdoch. To give you an example of the efficiency of these pumps, we were told that from cleaning the bath from a previous patient to filling the bath right up to the right temperature for the next person. It took no more than 3 minutes to fill up the bath. Does it not take longer to fill up a typical domestic bath? Surely that takes more than 3 minutes these days to fill a modern bath. It is said that the baths served around 45,000 people a year. This bathhouse had the intention to be one of the greatest in the country. It boasted as having 20 baths, 17 which were hot baths and 3 that were cold. With the added extension of 1864, it was added with a Turkish bath as well as 2 separate swimming pools, one for the ladies and one for the gentlemen, as well as providing numerous spa and hydrotherapy treatments. The treatments at these baths were claimed to cure a huge number of disorders, some examples being stiffness of tendon, rigidity of the joints, gout, rheumatism, tuberculosis, and various paralytical conditions. The spa waters were also a mild laxative, which was one of the main reasons why people drank the waters in order to detoxify their bodies. It is also reported that these baths were used to treat and successfully cure children affected by the great polio outbreak of 1957. Let's now just take a quick look inside, which in my opinion is one of the most incredible rooms that you can see today within this building. We are now entering the Hamam, or otherwise known as a Turkish bath. This is the place where people would go in after having their treat with their towel and robes to unwind in the steam and also socialise and drink the healing waters as well. In order to make the healing benefits of these spa waters available to more people, Leamington Spa decided to bottle its own mineral waters to supply royalty and the finest hotels, restaurants and chemists and grocers in the country. In April 1874, in an effort to promote the health-giving benefits of English mineral water, the spa waters were bottled in French siphon bottles in order to maintain the medicinal qualities of these waters. One of the advertising slogans which the mineral water company used was that the virtues of the Leamington Spa waters would be preserved and the great medicine of nature supplied in the pure, unadulterated state. These mineral waters kept on being supplied for over half a century. Let's now take a look at the Holy Well, which was Leamington's first well house, which is just a short distance over the other side of the river by the parish church. It is said that after the Roman period, these healing waters of Leamington Spa were rediscovered in the 1400s, in 1480, and known for their healing properties and ability to cure what was then called mad dog, which today is referred to as rabies. The spring quickly gained a reputation as a healing spirit. It is claimed that between the years 1786 and 1778, it was credited with curing hundreds of people who had suffered from bite of a mad dog or rabies. During those times, there was no known cure for mad dog or rabies. So at that time, it would have been regarded as these waters being a miracle to cure the people from mad dog. It wasn't until 1803, given by the instructions of the 4th Earl of Aylesford, the first well house in Leamington Spa was built, which soon gained a reputation as a holy well for its healing properties. The well house was built next to the parish church. It was made of stone, which had originally a flight of steps leading down to the waters. It had 2 pipes attached to the spring, one which fed the bath inside the house, and a second that fed a tap on the outside of the building. The purpose of this was that the poor were always able to freely access these healing waters. To no surprise, it would appear that the controllers knew of the undeniable benefits of these healing waters. The water continued to be available from the original spring under the well house until the year 1935, when, not surprisingly, the Leamington Corporation made the decision that the water should no longer be sourced from the spring, which was directly under the well house. So they capped this original spring and started to supply the water of the well house via a gravity pump fed from a well that was under the pump room and baths. Just 25 years later, on Wednesday, the 9th of November 1960, the local council made the decision that the well house should be demolished, despite opposition from many of the locals. It didn't take them long to start the demolition, as work commenced just 2 days later on Friday, the 11th of November of the same year, 1960. In my opinion, this is another great example of the controllers deliberately preventing the people from receiving the natural healing benefits of these waters from this holy well. One of the reasons is that it no longer serves or supports the controllers' agendas, and it did not fill the pockets of the large controlling corporations such as Big Pharma. Let's take a closer look at this image of the well when it was being demolished. We can see here further example propaganda and symbolism. What we can see here is a man posing with a sledgehammer on top of some of the rubble. Just look at his stance and his legs. This could be symbolizing, again, the Masonic compass. Take a look at the sign, which was conveniently placed next to a dark figure of a man, which represents a shadow. And what does the sign say? The supply of the spa water from this well is temporarily suspended. Does it look like it's been temporarily suspended to you? Is that just the controller's feeble attempt at humour? Or is it that the waters have been temporarily suppressed in order to prevent the people from accessing and benefiting from these natural healing waters, only so that the same script can be repeated? These waters could be rediscovered at a later time when they want it rediscovering. This sounds to me like the same pattern and the same script repeating itself over and over again. All that stands here today, where the old well house stood, is a controversial steel art structure designed by 45-year-old Oliver Barrett, which was erected in the year 2007, costing £30,000, which is around $39,000 US. This sculpture was part of a £300,000 project to regenerate the precinct around Parish Church, which is seen as a gateway between the old and new parts of the town. The sculpture is simply titled Spring and took just 3 months to produce. According to Oliver Barrett, the title of the sculpture is an indication to its intention. It has 3 meanings that apply to his work. Firstly, it refers to the spring water of the well house which stood at this exact location. Secondly, as in the rebirth of the earth, in the upward rhythm of the work and the crocus blue of its colour. And thirdly, it symbolises a lightly wound knot of energy that is stored in a metal spring, a form of latent strength. It's also worth mentioning the size of this structure. Both the height and the width are 3.5 metres, and the depth of the structure is 3 metres. I personally believe this sculpture is a further example of the symbolism for control, especially when you take into account all the references that I've mentioned to this sculpture to the number 3. To finish this video, let's now focus our attention to the Old Arboretum, which just happens to be located exactly 0.6 miles, which is 0.96 kilometers south of where we are right now. This water fountain in Jefferson's Garden was erected in 1869, which was unveiled in the memory of Hitchman for his devotion and contribution of his work to the town of Leamington. In 1851, a gentleman by the name of John Hitchman, who happened to be a colleague to Dr. Jefferson. Mr. Hitchman was a surgeon and a prominent member of the Leamington Society and a great philanthropist, whose anxiety about the water supply in the sewage system and natural homeopathic treatments were widely believed to hasten to his end. It was in this year, 1851, where Hitchman bought 11 acres of land, the highest point in the neighbourhood, south of the river, and created the Arboretum. We are now walking through the 11 acres which he purchased to create the Arboretum. He enriched the space with thousands of flowers, shrubs and exotic trees. He opened it free of charge to the public as Arboretum. This Arboretum contained one of the largest collections of fine specimen trees in England, containing over 100 different species of trees, shrubs and plants. He brought in and cultivated unusual conifer seedlings from all around the world. It was the first time trees such as the deodar, cedar and Wellingtonia, which is a Sakura redwood, originated from the Sierra Nevada mountains of Central California. Sadly, only 6 of these types of species of trees are still here today. For all of you who watched my previous video on Newbold Comyn and Midland Oak will see that we mention about inversions and basins. What we have here is a dry pond which is no longer used as a wet pond. When the houses were built on the land, as you can see around me, it looked as if the pond would be filled in and lost. However, to the discovery of the protected great crested newt, it led to a campaign by local residents to save the pond. However, this was short-lived, as temporarily pond and the newts survived. However, as we can see here now, it does not look like there has been water contained for a wildlife pond for quite a while. Again, this is an example of the inversion and basin, which has an impact on the energy and the ley line running through this place. So, is this the same story repeating itself from previous 2 videos? Nature has greatest resilience and can never be destructed as we can see some of these giant redwood sequoia trees. These incredible trees are so majestic and one of the largest species of trees we can see in the world today. These survived demolition, the establishments of what was on this land, and also in 1996, the alleyway we just walked through, there was a large freestanding chimney which was demolished, marking the end of the era of this space. Not only have the trees survived the demolition of the establishment that was once here, they also survived demolition of the freestanding chimney, as well as they're still surviving after the construction of housing. This is another example of the resilience of nature. It is clear to see that Hitchman had passion for homeopathic natural medicine and holistic treatment, as it wasn't long before he decided to purchase an additional 40 acres of joining land, where he decided to build a large grand house in the grounds to create a holistic hospital within the park. He created the Arboretum Hydropathic Hospital, which opened in 1863. The Hydropathic Hospital clearly demonstrated Hitchman's use of homeopathic medicine, which combined landscape gardening and arboriculture with healing. The treatments involved using the pure healing waters flowing from the constantly running spring at this location at temperatures graduated according to the nature of the specific disorder, which was aided by a properly regulated diet and regime, which involved taking numerous walks in nature and being surrounded by nature. Other methods included separate electric and electromagnetic baths, both men and women. These, along with many other treatments, were said to successfully cure all sorts of complaints, where all other conventional methods had previously failed. As you can see in this image of a listing of a directory at the time, it was reported that patients that were crippled were restored to health and were able to walk 4 miles due to these miraculous healing properties of nature. Sadly, to no surprise, Hitchman died suddenly just 4 years later in 1867, but the hydraulic hospital survived until 1883. So, for those of you who are consciously aware of what is really happening today, we can clearly see that this seems to be history simply repeating itself over again right now after the closure of the Hydropathic Hospital in 1883. It was purchased by the Royal Midland County's Home for Incurables, who used property and the ground as a hospice, looking after those suffering with tuberculosis and other uncurable diseases. That institution was taken over by another government agency. It was taken over by the NHS in 1948. So, as we've seen from a previous video on Newbold Comyn, and also with the pump rooms and baths, as soon as the government bodies take over, it seems to ultimately lead to the destruction, as the establishment finally shut its doors in 1995. Oh, didn't the pump room and baths also shut its doors in the 1990s? When the property was demolished, which destroyed most of the fine specimens of trees, shrubs and plants to make way for housing. Today, only around an acre to an acre and a half remain of the Arboretum. So it is quite clear, and in my opinion, to see that all the evidence I have provided within this video and also the previous 2 videos on the Midland Oak and Newbold Comyn, these are fine examples of the controllers trying to take overall control over the water, air and land, taking full control of those elements, as well as the energy that flows through the earth grid at these certain energetic locations. Let's end this video on positive. Those of you who have been following the Schumann resonance for the past few years will know earth energies are rising every day. And it's not only those earth energies that are rising faster and faster every day. We have achieved the mass consciousness. We are approaching a new era, a new age, where the suppression, the lies, and anything else that does not support humanity, earth, nature, we are all that one consciousness of energy. Those controllers who have had their agendas will be eradicated, as these new earth energies will no longer be sustained. Those people who have no interest in humanity or nature, their karmic consequences are coming up every day. What's happening? It's all backfiring. Their worst nightmare was that people will be awake and see the truth as they seem to like. And number 3, it is not only the great awakening in manifestation right now, it's also nature. As nature is a frequency and a vibration that they fear, as they cannot control. And the third aspect, truth. Once the darkness, once these lies are exposed to the light, they can no longer exist, as they are no longer sustainable. Remember, guys, keep reconnecting with nature and have the realization that you are your own co-creator. And if you're in that vibration, that frequency of the oneness, the creator, the universe, the light, God, whatever you see, the highest consciousness, you will have all the answers. You'll be self-empowered, because the world, the universe, the creator, the God will support you in every single possible way, because you're operating on that high consciousness vibration that we all have within us. Go out there in nature. Nature is our greatest healer, our greatest teacher, and nature will support you. You have that power. That power is within you. By giving the frequency of love, you'll repel those negative frequencies, as it's not something that they know how to respond to, as it's not written within their script. So remember, people, love, peace, and light to you all. Thank you all for watching the video.